Greetings, everybody. This is Justin Johnson, Executive Director of the Community of Hope Health Clinic in Pelham, Alabama. I just want to welcome you here to our fourth episode of the Community of Hope Health Clinic podcast. That's the CHHC podcast. And if you're watching for the first time or if you're watching multiple times, just want to say thank you for coming in. If you're watching this on video, of course, above my head right now, you've got all their important links. We've got our www.communityofhopeclinic.com, which is our webpage. Our Facebook is facebook.com/Community of Hope Health Clinic. And then our Instagram is instagram.com/CHHC_Shelby Co. So thanks for joining us again. If you want to subscribe, you can hit subscribe. You can hit the bell here on YouTube, and YouTube will alert you at that point as to when we make updates. And so right now I've been doing stuff for about a month, and I'm trying to see if I can actually bump this up to maybe twice a month and eventually weekly with the podcast. But today is a very important podcast for many reasons, but mainly because Community of Hope Health Clinic is a nonprofit. And what that means is that we don't make any money when it comes to providing our services. So generally what happens is we are all about getting donations, writing grants, dealing with government entities, applying for funding from different government entities, city, state, county, sometimes federal, just depends on what exactly we're doing. But so I want to talk a little bit about that today, and kind of want to piggyback this off of my my clinic's fundraiser coming up in I guess about 3 weeks or so, 3.5 weeks when I'm recording this, but it's coming up on May the 7th. And cue my picture of the invitation. It's going to be on May 7th, 6 to 8 p.m. It's a Tuesday night at the Pelham Civic Center. We're going to unveil our new video that is kind of an extension of what I showed last week. We'll have me and Maria Fernanda will be giving some information. We have a few volunteers, one of our doctors, and some other volunteers, and then we do actually have a patient who will be giving a testimony on that. So that's one of the things we'll be doing. We're going to be serving a hot meal from the Pelham Civic Center and their catering. Venue Works, and we'll have a nice program where we'll talk a little bit about the clinic. Of course, it is a fundraiser. We'll be asking for money, but the event is actually free, which is a lot of people you don't see that a lot. A lot of times they'll charge you for the plate, but we don't do that. It's free. We have sponsors to kind of handle the costs of actually putting on the event. And every year we try to have a guest speaker, and this year our guest speaker is Jody Fuller. Jody Fuller, I'll put some information about him in the description. Jody Fuller is he's a Iraqi war vet. He did a lot. He did a few tours over in the Middle East after 9/11. I believe he made it up to captain. I'm not 100% sure on that, but he is now a comedian. And one of the things that makes him unique is not only is he a veteran and a comedian, he is also a lifetime stutterer. And so he's funny. Y'all need to come out and see him if you'd like. The only thing I ask is your RSVP. You can RSVP by coming to emailing me at justin@communityofhopeclinic.com, or you can go to our webpage, www.communityofhopeclinic.com /fundraising-dinner. And there's some information about Jody. There's some information about what we do, how to give, and there's a place that you can RSVP. So let's talk a little bit about fundraising and what it means to the clinic, and not just the clinic, but any nonprofit. So, each year I have to come up with a budget. Usually I have a meeting with my finance committee sometime in the fall, and we sit down and we say, okay, here's what it's going to cost to operate for the following year. And so we sit there and we come up with a budget. line by line. This is what the salary is going to cost. This is what our rent is going to cost, our utilities, our internet, our supplies, education, all of our memberships, like with the National Association of Free and Charitable Clinics, our Alabama Association of Free and Charitable Clinics, our Mobile Healthcare Association, all those fun groups that we're a part of. What's it going to cost for security services? What's it going to cost to be a member of the dispensary? I mean, there's just a whole lot of a list of things. And based off of what we feel like that our expenses are, that's what we budget our income for. And so I have to sit there and I have to come up with numbers based off of what we've done that current year and project what kind of income we have to have coming in. So generally speaking, we have a number of grants that we will write to, and usually we're pretty good about getting them. And this is more the local grants. Our health foundation here is very generous to us. We always have a relationship with Shelby County and the government down in Columbiana. We have a good relationship with places like the Caring Foundation. We also have some multi-year grants that we know are going to be coming in. So, I take that and then I sit there and say, okay, how are we going to get the rest of this money? And I've neglected to mention the Alabama Association of Free and Charitable Clinics, which is very generous for us getting money from the state to operate. But, once I add all that up, I got to say, okay, how are we going to get the rest of this money? And lots of different groups tried lots of different ways to fund their programs. You've got silent auctions, you've got 5Ks, you've got walks, you've got golf tournaments. There's just so many different ways. Gala is one. We kind of do a gala, so it's like a fundraising dinner. We have fundraising breakfasts out there, luncheons, things like that. So, Community of Hope, since I took over in 2015, and really 2017, when we first started doing it, has always relied on, as our main fundraiser, as being a fundraising dinner. And up until that point, we had never raised more than about $14,000 to $15,000 for one event. And that first year, we raised almost 20. And that was 2017. Then 2018 and 2019, we raised close to 30, between 25 and 30. And then 2020 happened. And a month and a half before my fundraiser for 2020 happened, everything shut down, and had everything planned out for a Cinco de Mayo event at the Pelham Civic Center, and it just didn't matriculate like I'd hoped it would. And so we shut down, and then 2021 was still kind of iffy. 2022 was still kind of iffy. And finally in 2023, it was time for us to come back. And 2023 was very similar to 2019, somewhere between $25,000 and $30,000 raised. But the difference between 2023 and then what we were seeing leading up to our 2020 event that got canceled was the fact that, number one, we moved. Number two, our services in 2020 pretty much primary care. So we had added, so between 2020 and 2023, our fundraiser, we had added a nice physical therapy program. We had added mental health through a grant we got United Way. We had added PT. I say PT already? Physical therapy. Yeah, I said physical therapy. So, sorry, we'd added prenatal. So, here we were in 2023, and we'd added these services, and we were planning on adding an on-site medication dispensary so our patients could be dispensed medications here on site. And so we're looking at all these different aspects of these services that we've added, and our funding is the same, and that just doesn't work because when you're with UAB and you do a paid faculty practice, I mean, you got to pay. You're paying for the opportunity to have a licensed professional to come 2 days a week, and you know they're going to come every week, almost 2 days. You know, we were in the process of starting a on-site medication dispensary. That's not cheap, but the amount of money that our patients are saving. I mean, I just did the numbers the other day through the first 3 months of 2024. We had almost $50,000 worth of medications given to our patients for free. I mean, that's huge. Our patients are not having to, you know, spend money on their medications for GERD or their medications for diabetes. And you know, you may think, well, that's not, you know, those medications aren't you know, very expensive. Well, you know, a 90-day supply of one of the GERD medications is like $450 if you buy it wholesale. And so our patients are getting that for free. We're in the process of starting an optometry clinic. I mean, there's costs that have gone with that. So, you know, that was huge. Also, when you look at the facility we're in a great facility now. 2020, when everything shut down, we were still at the health department, but we were bound by, you know, state laws as to when we could be open, when we could be closed, what days of the week we could operate, what nights of the week we could operate. And we just felt like we needed that autonomy. Well, you know, we moved to our first place in October 2020, and that was a big leap of faith, but it was still cost. It wasn't 6 months later that we began doing vaccines and trying to do more of the services that we have here at the clinic. And we realized that even though we had gone from 1,900 square feet to 3,400 square feet, we weren't realizing that 3,400 square feet because we had 2 levels and our patients couldn't operate. We couldn't do stuff on the second floor. So we started looking again, and here we are in this beautiful building that we're at, right next door, and it's flat, and it's 600 or more square feet, and we're able to do so much more and be more conducive to what we're trying to do as a clinic. And so that's huge. But with that, you know, being huge also comes, you know, more rent. You know, we're paying utilities, we're paying internet, we're paying water, we're paying heat, we're paying air conditioning, we're paying, you know, all this stuff. And it's not that I'm complaining about it because the clinic is blessed, but the money's just not coming in like it had been. So, you know, I'm sitting here, we're going into 2024, and we're spending more money than we ever have, and we just got to find out different ways. And that's why events like what's going to happen on May 7th are so important to the clinic. We want to be able to give our patients the right services, quality services. You know, I mentioned all the time. I mentioned on our last 2 campaign videos that, you know, when our patients walk through the door, I want them to walk in like I want them to feel like they're walking into any paid clinic across the state of Alabama, and that's, you know, they deserve that. Everybody deserves that. The people deserve to be healthy. You know, and some of us, you know, are more fortunate than others. But in the long grand scheme of things, we cannot sit there and just say, well, you know, you don't deserve that. And you know, I, being a Christian that I am, you know, I feel like that's what I was instructed to by Jesus to do. Is I was instructed to go out and make disciples of all nations. I was, you know, Paul writes in the book of Romans to show hospitality to those who may be in need. John has, you know, the whole, just as I loved you, love the church, you know, you love everybody else, you know, love everyone. So it's just something that, you know, is strong in my heart. And I wish that I could say that our cash operating budget has matriculated into something for me, but it really hasn't, you know, as far as financially, personally. Nonprofit, you're not going to get rich. There's expenses. And so we've got our fundraiser coming up, and, you know, even if you can't attend the fundraiser, but you would like to give, we really would appreciate it. And there's ways to find out how to give online, or you can always email me and I can walk you through the steps. So, but anyway, So today's episode, like I said, is talking about fundraising, and I hope I know I've rambled on a little bit, but this is just something that's is near and dear to my heart. I feel like in the past we haven't been aggressive enough when it comes to fundraising, and I want you to know that we are doing great stuff here. Whenever you give to the Community of Hope Health Clinic, your money is not going to waste. And I can go out right now, we're having clinic. I can go out and probably talk to half a dozen people who are patients here that can tell you what great stuff we're doing. I can go out right now and I can talk to a couple of our volunteers that can tell you what great stuff we're doing. That's the reason they volunteer here. So, with that said, so like I said, our fundraiser is Tuesday night, May the 7th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Pelham Civic Center at 500 Amphitheater Road in Pelham 35124. AmFirst, formerly known as America's First Federal Credit Union, they are our sponsor. This will be the fifth time they've been our sponsor, and we really do appreciate all they do for us. And we've got Jody Fuller coming to give our kind of our inspirational talk, our keynote speech for the event. And so right now I want to kind of transition over to the interview that I have with Jody, and I hope you enjoy it. I hope you learn something. I hope you find it in your heart to give to the Community of Hope Health Clinic. So. Hi, this is Justin Johnson, Executive Director, Community of Hope Health Clinic in Pelham, Alabama. I'm here with Jody Fuller, who is the stuttering comic, but he's also an inspirational speaker and a Iraqi war veteran. I think you did what 3 tours?
Yeah, three.
3 tours. So just wanted to highlight some of the stuff that I was talking about on the other part of the podcast with our fundraiser and our fundraising coming up. And Jody, actually, I met him back in the fall when we were looking about expanding to doing a comedy show in Columbiana, and he headlined our comedy show and got some great responses for that. But I feel like we had a lot to go up against that day. Even Jody said, "Hey, I'm normally out in a tree stand somewhere. This is the first day of hunting season, and Alabama's not playing, and Auburn's not playing, and I think we could have had a little bit more. Like I said, we were going with a whole lot of different stuff, and so I felt that a lot of people didn't get to hear and didn't get to be exposed to Jody. And I know that each year we bring in well over 100 people to our fundraiser. And so I spoke with Jody, and he was definitely interested in coming back, and not for a comedy show, but more for a formal dinner. And I have a really good feeling he's going to put in some of his comedic element in there just to give everybody a laugh or two. So, Jody, appreciate you having
Yeah,
being
man,
out here
glad to be.
today. So, uh, you know, Community of Hope Health Clinic, we're the free clinic here in Shelby County. We're one of, I think, 22 across the state of Alabama. I know there's one in Auburn that uh, probably services the Opelika area, which is where you're from.
Mhm.
And I know that you go around. I know you're a comedian. You go around. You do a lot of shows across the nation, but I also know that you do a lot of smaller shows in the Alabama area and across the southeast. Yeah. So I know that you're a comedian. You go out across the nation doing shows, and but I also know just following you on social media and kind of getting to know you over the last 6 months or so that you do a lot of smaller events. I know you've done a lot of military events. You've done church groups. You just a lot of smaller stuff, and I just kind of wanted to first of all. Kind of tell me about just a little bit about your background and also how doing events like what we do here at Community of Hope or some of the other smaller events, why you do them, why they're important to you.
Well, number one, again, thanks for having me. Man, I'm a stuttering guy who speaks for a living. Man, ain't God great? Ain't America great? So, man, I just appreciate every opportunity that I get to speak and tell humorous stories and jokes. Again, I'm just blessed to do what I do, and doing the smaller events, whether it's a small church or a VFW or an American Legion, or a small nonprofit, they don't have the deep pockets that some of the bigger organizations have, but they deserve and need the same type of humor and motivation. So, and I do them, and I know that the good Lord blesses me on the other side, and pretty much even those uh, uh, they just about always lead to other opportunities as well. Whether it's 25 or 2,500, they usually lead to other opportunities for me to go and reach other people.
Yeah, I know that I've actually referred. Maybe you don't know about this, but every time I get a chance to refer somebody that I know that's a good dude, I do it. And so I know I've referred probably half a dozen people at least to you.
I
That's why,
appreciate it.
like I was just saying, my uncle. Before we got on here, my uncle. I invited him just because he's big with the VFW. He's big with Wounded Warrior,
Mm-hmm.
and I've invited him. I was talking to a lady today from the Cahaba Elks Lodge, which is one of our big supporters, and they're real big with the military. So, any chance I get, try to pay it forward for
Yeah.
what we get. So,
Hey, man, everybody just help each other out.
the first time that I saw you was on YouTube on Dry Bar Comedy,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, since you and I have become, I guess, friends over the last 6 months or so,
Oh yeah.
I've delved a little bit more into even before that, back when you were still wearing your uniform and you were, entertaining, I guess, some of the fellow troops that you were doing, on your YouTube page. And how did this come about? How did this come about? How did you become a comic? Like you said, you're a stuttering man who speaks for a living. That's You wouldn't expect that, and just wanted to see what
I
kind of
was.
how did that background started.
Uh, I like to tell people that I was always in school. This is a very long time ago. I was like a respectable class clown. I didn't interrupt the teacher and cause problems like that. But when it was time to be funny, I could be funny. But obviously, I graduated high school in 1990, a long time ago. Well before the internet and all this stuff. So didn't really think of comedy as being a career or anything like that. But after failing miserably one quarter in college, I decided to join the military. So I did my 4 years in the Army. And then I came home and I went to school, did fine this time, and I graduated. And then 9/11 happened. So I decided to go back into the Army. But from the time I decided to go, it took a year. I actually left for officer candidate school at Fort Benning, Georgia on September 11th, 2002. So I had time, a lot of time. And a friend of mine had told me about an open mic in Birmingham there at the Stardome. And I went there and it went really well the first time. And there was a young man there by the name of Roy Wood Jr. that night. I wonder what he's up to these days.
Sounds familiar to me. That name does.
Yeah, he's killing it. He's on everything. But I did two open mics, and he was there both times. And anyway, it was just a great experience each time. But uh, I was able to leave for the Army, and I was stationed at Fort Lewis, Washington before we deployed to Iraq the first time. I did some comedy up there in the Seattle area. Went really, really well. Again, just open mics, and I'm still a newbie. Went to Iraq, and those two that are in uniform that you saw on YouTube, I think there's two. They were from that first deployment, 0304. And one of them, when we got back, we submitted, a buddy of mine who's technologically sound. That is not me. He did a video for me and he put it together. And there was a contest going on at the time, and I wound up winning being top 5 of this online competition, and wound up going to Las Vegas for 5 days, performing there and doing it. It was, I'm like, okay, I can do this. And my time to get out of the Army. That was November of '05. I was slated to get out in February of '06. So got out and tried the comedy thing. It's going, but wound up deploying 2 more times with Alabama National Guard, which in the meantime allowed me to grow in so many ways. And when I got back, that kind of transitioned into not just stand-up comedy, because I never really wanted to be a club guy. I didn't want to be the guy that was working comedy clubs 3 nights a week. And back then they were still smoking in those things, and hearing all the blue stuff, which I'll be, I'm honest, I did do a lot of the not totally dirty, but I used a lot of humor that I don't use now because I felt that I had to at that time to get my foot in the door. But now I don't do anything like that. Everything I do is clean. But yeah, and I would just do comedy, but then people would come up to me afterwards and be like, you know what? I never thought about what it's like for my brother or my cousin or my friend who stutters to go to a drive-through window or to do a job interview or to ask a girl out. I never thought about that. So I was able to tell those stories in a humorous way, but also open up the mindset of the challenges that people face. And it's not just stuttering; it's just with anything. I tell people we all have something. And we can use it as a gift and try to use it to help others.
So, kind of going based off of that, you and we've had a few conversations about what we do here at Community of Hope, and a lot of times you talk about you, and I would guess, I don't know for sure, but based off of your stuttering, you probably were either not comfortable doing something, or you may even been excluded from doing something because it was nothing that you could really. It's not like you can help it, and overnight there's a magical drug that next thing you know, you're like we were joking about before. You're Billy Graham. There's nothing you can do about that. But I feel like sometimes with a clinic, we have people who are, they don't know the language, or they're born into poverty, and that's a hard cycle to get out of, and it's not something that they just went out and said, hey, I'm gonna be poor today, or I'm not gonna be able to afford health care or insurance, and then and then they're stuck without, they got diabetes and they don't have any way to get medication. They don't have any way to check stuff. So, what does something like that mean to you to be able to, help out maybe those who have been excluded, or those who maybe had no choice on, just how life is, uh, to help them get services, or who knows, we may do speech therapy one day for kids that may not, or kids or adults, and it may not um, cure a stutter, I guess is how you would say it, but it might be able to help with some sort of psychological training to maybe possibly help out in the
Yeah.
future. What does that kind of mean to you?
Well, just and you alluded to it right there, and then I'll circle back around. So for stuttering, you kind of alluded to there is no cure, but you can get you can be helped with your fluency. So there are a lot of speech language pathologists out there that are doing great work with kids and adults alike. So yeah, that would be really awesome if y'all were able to be in a position one day to help people out with that, because communication, man. I mean, people judge you immediately by the way you talk. And man, being in the Army, when I first joined the Army, between the stuttering and the Alabama accent, I mean, I got it for both ends there. But uh, uh, I remember I was in OCS and we were talking about our test scores one night, and everybody's like, "Yeah, I made this, I made that," and like for example, on the ASVAB, the 99 is as high as you can make. And this guy's like, I made a 96. Guy made 95. And they kind of looked over me and said, kind of in a condescending manner, like, Fuller, what'd you make? I said, 99. because that's just how you can make, and that's what I made. So I hopefully I was able to teach them a lesson that there. But I grew up poor, and it's that kind of like what you said. It wasn't my parents' fault, my parents divorced when I was 2 or 3 years old. My father was a juvenile diabetic, and he lost his eyesight when I was 2 or 3 years old there in 1975. I always say 2 or 3 years old because it was 75, and I was born in May of 72. So I just know it was sometime since 75. And then he died when I was 8 years old in 1981. So, and my mama, she worked. Oh, she worked. I tell people, I brag on her all the time. The whole 18 years I lived under her roof, she missed work one day. I mean, that's it. I always work. So there are people that work their tails off and still have trouble making ends meet. Luckily, by the grace of God, we were healthy and we didn't have issues, or it could have been much, much worse. And I don't regret the way we grew up one bit whatsoever. So I don't need anybody to take that away. But some people, you grow up disadvantaged. And sometimes, let's be honest, it is the parents' fault, but it's not the kids' fault, and the kids need help too. And the parents, they're not going to be able to come out of that without the help. So people need help, to get out of the circumstances that they are in. But that very well could have been us. So any way that I can help give back in this gift that God has given me in any little way that I can, then I'll certainly be there to do my part.
Good deal. So I told you we wouldn't be too long on this. I know you got a big trip to Missouri coming up in the morning. So for those people who may be coming onto our podcast and learning about community folk for the first time, and I know that you've never been to one of our fundraisers, but what would you say to them when it comes to just giving back to the community, being benevolent to the community, and I'll just let you talk, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, man, give back. I mean, it'll come back to you when we all help each other. It just raises the community as a whole. Often in my show, my speeches, I read some letters that I got from kids on my second tour in Iraq, and there's some funny ones. But the last one is the one that kind of brings it home. It says, "Thank you for." I'm not reading this anyway. I've just said it 1,000 times, but it says, "Thank you for thank you for your service to this great nation. Without people like you who serve our country would be bad." And I tell people, you certainly don't have to wear the uniform to serve. You're helping your neighbor, or an organization like this. Just think how much better the community would be if we all legitimately reached out to help each other and pull each other up. Be so much better, man.
And people don't realize, I think sometimes that the people that we see, or like people like Mercy Medical Clinic, which is in Auburn, that covers Lee County and the surrounding counties. It could be their neighbor.
Yeah.
It could be their cousin. It could be their coworker. It could be the person you say hello to the street every single day when you walk past them. You just don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate those words, and I appreciate your service. Thank you. Thank you for your service, and I hope nothing but the best for you and your trips. I hope that your trip to Missouri is not painful as far as riding in a car for 20 hours, but
Yeah.
I know those can be hard to overcome, and but I know that you're doing great. You're doing great things, and I appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing you on May 7th at the Pelham Civic Complex.
Me too, brother.
So that was my interview with Jody Fuller. Jody's a great guy. Second time he's helped us out. He helped us out with our comedy show back in November, and he just does great things for the community. He does. If you go to his website, jodyfuller.com, you can see all the different places that he goes to. He does, he goes to churches. He goes to VFWs. He goes to American Legions. He's been on tour on the road. I know that recently he was in Iowa. The Dry Bar Comedy, where I first saw him, that's out in Salt Lake City. So he does a lot of work with the community. Um, and this guy's he's a really good guy. And so if you have an organization or a business that puts on keynote speakers or want to do comedy show, I would definitely suggest Jody. He's easy to work with. If you do it here in the state of Alabama, he's from Alabama, and he loves giving back to organizations within his state. So, with that said, I'm gonna put the QR code to sign up or RSVP for our event. If you want more information on what we're doing, you can always go to our website at www.communityofhopeclinic.com. You can always go to our Facebook and our Instagram. Facebook Community of Hope Community of Hope Health Clinic is our username. Instagram, our username is CHHC_Shelby Co. You can go there, learn more about us. You can email me. My like I said, my name is Justin. My email address is justin@communityofhopeclinic.com. We'd love to give you a tour of our event, of uh, our facility. I'd like to have more people out here just to kind of see what we do. If you want to work together, collaborate, I'm more than happy to do that. Hablamos español. We also speak English. We have a large portion of English speaking patients here as well. So, with that said, please consider donating to the Community of Hope. Please consider coming to our event. It's a free event on May 7th. I just need an RSVP. I got to turn the catering in by May the 3rd for the May 7th event. And I hope you enjoyed this. And I guess until next time, I'll talk to you later. So one of the things that I'm trying to get people excited about is you see this right here. This is my beard. I love my beard. Every year I grow it. I cannot wear it during football season because of one of my side hustles as a football official. But when it's not football season, I have beard season. So everybody talks about winter, spring, summer, and fall. I have football season and beard season. And so I've set a goal of $50,000 for this event. That will allow us to grow and be able to put on the program and the event services for our patients. And if I can raise that by May the 8th, actually let's do May the 10th, which would be that Friday. I will do a live video in which I'm going to shave my head and then I'm going to shave my beard, which is something I will not be doing lightly, and I will protest it because I want my beard, but at the same time, I'll be happy because that means we've reached our goal of $50,000 for this, which would be our largest fundraiser ever. So just wanted to put that out there.